Something is unraveling in Hollywood tonight. Blake Lively just filed a shocking new motion that might change everything. Laura Owens' secret meeting with the judge has the internet in disbelief, and a behind-the-scenes brawl on the set of Outer Banks has left cast and crew shaken. From courtroom chaos to celebrity meltdowns, nothing about today's headlines feels normal. Stay right here, because what's about to unfold will leave you speechless. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this rush hour ride through a whirlwind of stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Because today, everything feels like it is shifting right in front of our eyes. The headlines are pulsing with tension, and somewhere between truth and spectacle, the lines are starting to blur. Now imagine waking up to a world where scandals are not whispered, but broadcast live, where one court filing can flip the balance of Hollywood power, and where a single private meeting can change the direction of justice itself. Today is one of those days where the air feels charged with something bigger than the stories themselves, because behind every headline there is a motive, a plan, and someone fighting to control the narrative. So let us begin with a man who refuses to stay down. The infamous Billy McFarland, the name once synonymous with disaster and fraud, now clawing his way back into the spotlight like a phoenix rising out of the ashes of Fyre Festival 1. The festival that became the ultimate cautionary tale of influencer hype gone wrong. The man who once sold luxury dreams in the Bahamas and delivered sandwiches in styrofoam boxes is back with something new. A documentary, not just any documentary, but one about his second attempt at the impossible Fyre Festival. 2, a sequel no one asked for, but everyone will watch, and this time he promises redemption. This time he claims he has learned from the chaos, the deception, the lawsuits, the shame. It is almost poetic. The man who once turned paradise into panic, now trying to sell his truth one frame at a time. But what makes this so compelling is not the idea of redemption, it is the audacity, the refusal to fade away, to stay buried in the rubble of internet infamy. He sold the rights to his story and yet still found a way to tell it himself because control is currency. And Billy understands that better than anyone. He owes millions. But he keeps working, he keeps talking, he keeps creating. Because in his mind, the comeback is the only currency that matters. And as he prepares to drop this documentary somewhere between December and early next year, the question remains, can he ever really rebuild trust? Or will this just be another chapter in a saga of ambition gone too far? He says he wants to build another festival, maybe in the United States this time. No beaches, no illusions, no celebrity chaos, just music, community, and a chance at redemption. But everyone watching remembers the last time he said, "Trust me." And that memory still burns in the public's mind like a scar that never healed yet. In this strange world of second chances, maybe Billy McFarland becomes the perfect symbol of reinvention. The idea that even the most broken stories can find an audience again. And as he plans his return, the internet debates whether it is a hustle or a miracle, whether he is an artist of redemption or the architect of delusion. Either way, people are watching, and that is exactly what he wants. Now, speaking of comebacks and courtroom turns, let us shift our focus to another headline that feels almost cinematic. Laura Owens, the name that has dominated whispers across legal circles and social feeds. A woman whose story has become a maze of accusations, delays, and unanswered questions. Her trial, a moment meant to bring clarity, has instead birthed more mystery than ever before. Day 1, she was nowhere to be found. Day 2, she appeared not in person, but on a screen, telling the judge she could not make it. The judge demanded her presence in person the next day. But when that day came, she was gone again, leaving behind silence, confusion, and the echo of speculation. And then suddenly a twist that no one expected: a private meeting between Laura Owens and the judge, and in camera. Meeting without the opposing counsel, without witnesses, behind closed doors. Something was said, something was granted. And just like that, the trial was postponed, extended, delayed into November, under what she called an accommodation request for health reasons. But the timing, the filing, the suddenness of it all made everyone watching wonder, was this a genuine plea for understanding or a calculated move in a larger game? Because in court, timing is strategy, and silence is power. And right now, Laura Owens has both. She has turned a public trial into a private drama, and the people waiting for justice are left in the dark. Her opponent, Mike Maraschini, has been fighting to clear his name, presenting evidence that challenges everything she has claimed, From alleged messages to supposed medical records, all pointing toward a story that may not be what it seems his side brought in. Experts, analysts, people who looked at the data and saw patterns that did not align. And now he waits again while the case sits paused and a judge weighs accommodations that might be genuine or might be something else entirely. The internet erupted when news broke of her private meeting. People outside the courtroom were tweeting live updates, influencers and journalists, questioning why such secrecy was allowed and what it meant for the fairness of the case. Some said she was buying time. Others said she was protecting her health. But everyone agreed on one thing: this is not normal. Courtrooms are built on transparency, and when doors close behind the bench, speculation grows louder by the hour. And for Mike, this delay means more waiting, more uncertainty, and more of his life held in suspension as people debate a case that never seems to end. And while supporters rallied saying they will keep showing up to every hearing to prove that public attention cannot be silenced, the other side insists the noise itself is unfair, that the spectacle has overtaken substance and justice cannot breathe under the weight of hashtags and viral clips. But this is what the modern courtroom looks like, a place where legal motions trend on social media and filings become fuel for public opinion. Laura Owens has somehow become both a defendant and a symbol. The question is of what, depending on who you ask, she is either a survivor seeking understanding or a manipulator, weaponizing sympathy. And that tension, that uncertainty, that whisper of what is real is what keeps people glued to their screens, because we are no longer just watching trials. We are watching theater, where every appearance, every absence, every unexplained delay becomes a plot twist in a story no one can turn away from. As the new hearing approaches in November, the stage is set for a confrontation that could expose everything or bury it all for good. And the only certainty is that the internet will be there front row, ready to analyze every word, every look, every decision, and every silence, waiting for the truth that still refuses to come out. And somewhere between the noise and the silence lies a question we cannot ignore when justice becomes entertainment. Who really wins? Now the storm that has consumed Hollywood refuses to calm, because just when everyone thought things could not possibly escalate further, Blake Lively returned to the center of chaos with a filing that sent shockwaves through every studio hallway. Every PR office and every social media timeline, her team quietly submitted a new motion, one that insiders say could completely reshape the course of her battle with Justin Baldoni. And while the words on paper may appear technical, procedural, even routine, those who have followed this war closely understand exactly how dangerous every single line in that document really is. It is not just a filing. It is a statement of intent. It is a warning shot, fired in the quiet before the next explosion. And behind the polished language lies something far more volatile. Blake is fighting for her reputation, for her narrative, for her survival in a Hollywood that is suddenly beginning to question everything she built. And what makes this so fascinating, so unnerving, is how the lines between strategy and desperation have started to blur. Her legal team, led by Brian Friedman, has spent months trying to regain control of the story, after a series of devastating court rulings and leaks that exposed private communications between her and some of the most powerful names in the industry. Those leaked text messages, the ones allegedly involving Taylor Swift, remain the ghost that haunts every filing, every argument, every hearing, because they are not just words on a screen, they represent intent, tone, motive. And once context becomes public, the illusion of control begins to fracture. This new filing, insiders claim, was designed to prevent exactly that. Another wave of exposure, another storm of headlines, but the court's patience is thinning, and so is the public's, because every attempt to block discovery only seems to make people hungrier to know what is being hidden, as if secrecy itself has become the story. And while Blake's lawyers insist they are simply protecting privacy, her critics argue she is protecting power, that she is shielding herself from accountability behind legal language and celebrity privilege. Justin Baldoni's camp, meanwhile, has remained quiet, at least on the surface. But people close to his team have suggested this new filing may actually backfire, that by trying to limit what can be introduced, Blake's side may have accidentally invited the judge to review the very evidence they wanted suppressed. And if that happens, if those messages or documents are deemed relevant, it could mark the beginning of a public reckoning. No PR spin could contain the tension is thick, not just in court, but across the entire entertainment world, because this case has become a mirror reflecting something bigger. The idea that fame is no longer protection, that influence can no longer silence scrutiny, People who once idolized her are now analyzing her, and the press that once protected her image is now asking difficult questions about how far she and her team were willing to go to maintain control. And that control is slipping slowly, visibly, painfully, because the internet never forgets, and the court system does not bend to charm or smiles. It bends to evidence and truth, and as those two forces collide, the pressure around this case has reached a boiling point. Her team has begun quietly reaching out to industry allies, asking them to remain silent to avoid commentary, to not feed the fire. But the problem is, the fire is already out of control the moment Brian Friedman's name appeared in the filing. The speculation reignited because his involvement alone signals that Blake is not just fighting legally, she is fighting strategically. He is known for being sharp, relentless, and tactical. But this time, his client is not just fighting a courtroom battle. She is fighting a cultural one as people begin to revisit old interviews, old clips, old press appearances now seen through a completely different lens. What was once charisma now looks calculated. What was once confidence now feels defensive. And that shift in perception is the most dangerous kind, because once the public begins to doubt authenticity, every word, every smile, every silence becomes evidence of something darker beneath the surface. The timing of the filing was not lost on anyone either. It came just days before several journalists were preparing to publish long-form pieces about the fallout from her earlier court losses and the PR backlash that followed. Coincidence maybe, but in Hollywood, timing is rarely accidental. Sources say her PR strategists urged a proactive move, a show of power, something that could change the conversation before the narrative hardened into something unbreakable. And yet in doing so, she may have reignited exactly what she wanted to silence. Because now every outlet is talking again. Every platform is revisiting the story, and the mystery only grows louder. The court itself has become the stage, and everyone involved knows the cameras may not be inside, but the eyes of the world still are. The moment any ruling comes down, it will travel through the bloodstream of social media within minutes, amplified, dissected, and immortalized. And that awareness changes everything. Lawyers now perform as much as they litigate. Statements are written not just for judges, but for audiences. And the result is a drama that feels less like a legal dispute and more like an unfolding series where truth competes with perception, and perception always wins. For a moment, the silence between filings feels louder than the filings themselves. Every pause becomes a cliffhanger, every denial a plot twist, and somewhere deep inside that tension lies the reality that both Blake and Justin have more at stake than money or headlines. It is legacy, it is image. It is the question of who gets to own the final version of their story. Because in this town, stories are the only currency that never loses value, and for someone like Blake, who built her empire on image, on likability, on connection, the idea that people might stop believing her is the most terrifying possibility of all. The irony, of course, is that while this case is tearing apart reputations, it is also reshaping how Hollywood handles crisis. The days of managing scandal through silence are gone. Audiences demand transparency, and anything less becomes an admission of guilt. So now the walls that once protected stars are turning into cages. Their privacy no longer a sanctuary, but a symbol of what they are hiding. The judge's next ruling could determine not just the direction of this case, but the tone of accountability across the entire industry. Because if this filing fails, if her motion is denied, and those private communications are deemed relevant, we could be looking at a moment that redefines what it means to have power in the public eye. And if the court grants it, it may signal that even the most scrutinized can still find protection in procedure. Either way, something irreversible is about to happen. And when it does, every studio, every agent, every publicist will take note. Because what is unfolding here is not just a legal battle. It is a reckoning wrapped in designer silence, a reminder that beneath the glamour, beneath the control, there is always a cost, and right now that cost is beginning to show. And so as the dust begins to settle on a day filled with courtroom intrigue, media chaos, and on-set unraveling, we are left staring at a landscape that feels both familiar and foreign. Because this is the new rhythm of our time, where truth and performance are no longer opposites, but intertwined parts of the same endless spectacle. Blake Lively's legal maneuvering, Billy McFarland's redemption campaign, Laura Owens' Vanishing act, and the fractured set of Outer Banks all share one quiet thread: the hunger for control in a world that refuses to be controlled. Every headline today was not just a story, but a reflection of what it means to live in an age where perception decides everything. where silence is strategy and exposure is a weapon. And as we watched these dramas unfold, we saw a glimpse of something deeper: the exhaustion of an industry built on image, and the cracks beginning to show beneath the polish Hollywood used to write its own myths. Now it merely reacts to them, chasing narratives that move faster than its own spin machines, but beyond the glitter and the chaos, there is a lesson unfolding quietly in the background: that power built on secrecy is never permanent, and truth, no matter how delayed, always finds its way through the noise. Maybe not today, maybe not in the next hearing, or the next press cycle. But inevitably, when the lights fade and the cameras stop, the stories that endure are the ones that dared to tell the truth. And in this storm of filings and whispers and implosions, that truth is the only thing left standing. Fragile perhaps, but unshakable in the end.